Denmark is the main company in our family group, and it is primarily a marketing and distribution company in the fast-moving consumer goods sector. In countries that we worked in, the relationship and trust was the easiest thing to lose. They were used to being conned by people around them. But when you actually show them that I'm there for the long term, I'm with you always, they would almost reward you many times over after they saw that you were committed to doing that.
And why is that different to any other company?
We don't look at the next quarter or the next month's figures. We look at growing it. We don't necessarily need to have a year-end target or quarterly target. We're looking at saying, okay, there are things that we want to do which are right, which sustain our family as it is, but we'd like to do them better and do more of it.
I mean, I agree with what Sunny said. It takes a long time to do succession planning. You should start early. There's a lot of stakeholders involved. There's people who work in the business, family members who don't work in the business, and there's the actual people, the staff of the business, and any other management teams, and they all have different requirements and different wants. And it can be a very conflict situation, so you need to tread carefully. The people have to let go of the reins at the top and trust the people coming through. So when we start, we start to try and understand not just the asset base of a client, but what the individual's objectives are.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you mentioned places where you wouldn't go on holiday necessarily?
Yeah. You go on holiday to a lot of those places.
Yeah, you don't go to the Yemen, do you? So we're quite good in places like the Yemen, for instance. So we have an example where our company has a ginger beer, and people seem to love our ginger beer in Yemen. Now, one day you're doing extremely well there, and the next day it's a coup. And that happens almost every year. So we were affected by the Yemen recently. Prior to that, last year we had ISIS attacking Iraq, and our distributors packed up the shop and literally left. They did actually leave the country and they moved to the UK.
How many times have you read in the press, the wealthy must pay their fair share? That mantra is what's driving sort of government level of regulation. It used to be financial privacy could only be undermined in the interests of tax evasion, money laundering, funding terrorism. But actually, in this sort of tough economic world that we live in, that kind of financial privacy is being undermined by governments who have looked at, say, the States and have seen how effective an information exchange regime called FATCA has operated, and that was designed to find out assets held by US individuals outside the US. So these sort of issues, and privacy is a real concern. And now we've got the proposal for ultimate beneficial ownership register, which can be easily searched at a company's house. So in some cases, it's almost as like anybody can look up and see what's in your private bank account if it's held in a company.
Family businesses do, which in my view, is that they diversify out of their core activity as well. So as a family, we're also in freight forwarding and property in hotels. So it's something we're doing just in case something ever happens. And I think many of the ones that failed probably don't do that to the same extent.
What is your biggest challenge in terms of growing the business where you are today, 2015?
Specifically for us, it is about the countries that we work in. We are, let's say, in difficult places, and they provide unique challenges, which I say most people I have interactions with don't wake up with a potential coup or a religious takeover or something like that. Trying to get that mix right between the risk-reward is critically important for us.
Your parents' generation, how have they viewed and used their professional advisors, and how is it different from how you're viewing and using your professional advisors now?
Initially, it's about your own
survival.
Survival. It's about how to progress at a certain level. When you get further on down the line, you're a more established business. It's how do you now handle complexity and all the different things that your business now throws at you.
But you talk about some of the practicalities that we've touched on succession planning and why a lot of family businesses, which you would think is a no-brainer, don't have that in place. It's a horrible conversation, because what succession planning is something that no child ever wants to think about, because you want everything to be equal and as it is. You don't want to talk about what happens when your parents are not there or cannot run it, and then fight with your siblings or deal with your siblings. These are all terrible scenarios for somebody to be in or put themselves in, and to sit down around a table and have this kind of discussion over dinner. So to talk about succession planning as a kind of cold and calculated...
I think it starts before that. You don't just jump into succession planning. I think there is a whole picture. And you'd be surprised the amount of people you meet that don't have wills, they haven't even thought that far about passing assets on, they just have input about their own mortality. I've been told that I own this and I own that, and you suddenly find out they don't, someone else does. So the way we normally start is to kind of get a clear picture of the assets in the world. And so there's the business assets, there's the kind of wealth that's being created out of the business, and then there's the personal assets. And we tend to look at different strategies for those three types of assets, and then the conversation evolves.
Yeah, that's true. Even clients often come in for one thing, and maybe, I don't know, a power of attorney or something small, and they leave the office going, oh my God, we need to call a family meeting and we need to raise all these horrible issues that we've just been not looking at because they're too difficult.
Have you thought about what you would like your children to do? Because I know you talk a lot about working with your father and with your father-in-law and sharing his values. Have you thought about? Has it come across your mind about them?
So my sisters were, my middle sister she was a doctor from the day she was born. She always wanted to be a doctor, and to have not allowed her to pursue that or to force her to be in a family business would be a massive injustice to who she is and what she does. So I think if my children had a career path, I don't think I'd stop them in any way. Where I'd never had a career path. I was always kind of just floating around.
There's no intention to bring them into the business at this stage at all. It is too far away still, and I don't think we would feel compelled to really want them to do this. It'd be nice, I'm sure, but it's not something which we would give them very much.
I think that's also something different between generations, because when it was just my mum and my dad, and then we needed some staff, and here's some staff, and then it's a need to survive, and now, touch wood, you are surviving, so your children have more choices. I'm not saying that if you wanted to be a pop star or something that's not got financial security behind him, I'd be very, very thrilled, but I want them to have the options and the opportunities that maybe my parents didn't have or I didn't have, or I think that's part of the evolution of maybe that's why they don't make it to third generation, because they just don't want to. I mean, I would still drum that same ethos into my children that was drummed into me, that everything you have comes from this business. You must respect it, you must work hard for it because it works hard for you and it respects all the things you want to do.